following is a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands.
And welcome into Taking Care of Business. I'm your host, Justin the Ninja Wilski, and here on Senior Solutions, as always, we are joined by Matt Heiar. Matt, good morning. How are you today?
Good. How are you today?
Doing very well. We talked very briefly before the show started, and it sounds like you're going to be doing very well in a couple of days.
Yes.
So much deserved rest coming your way after what was a very busy end of the year.
Yes. So the annual election, October 15th to December 7th, it's only 7 weeks, but it feels like much longer. But yes, and that was my little motivation that I planned a trip for January. So I just kept thinking warmer weather, and I will be there soon.
I have friends that I know who are in the accounting field. And so once tax season ends, that's their, now we take our vacation.
Yeah.
So similar to that.
Yeah, theirs is much more complicated probably because you have to file for extensions and, taxes scare me. So I don't want to say ours is the same because theirs is probably chaotic also. But yeah, it's a lot of work. But at the same time, to motivate yourself and, pay yourself off, it's, the little things in life.
Little things in life are important, including little details for anybody who's tuning into the show and has never listened before and has no idea who you are. Matt, reintroduce yourself to everybody and give a little bit of information about Heiar Insurance.
Yes. So my name is Matt Heiar, and I work for Heiar Insurance and Estate Planning. So we help people, we teach people how to retire. So we'll walk you through the steps, whether it's, the estate planning aspect of it, the retirement, the 401ks, budgeting and planning for taxes. We do not do taxes, but we advise with our accountants and CPAs on our team to make, the best effort, because that is the biggest thing is taxes in retirement. Mm-hmm. What are we going to do with insurance? We lose our group insurance. So whether we have to, sign up for Social Security, Medicare potentially, or else we are going on the marketplace insurance. So we'll help people walk you through that and create an income plan to make sure that we can keep our income at a certain level to make sure our premiums are affordable. We help people with funeral trust, also for burial expenses, life insurance, and you name it. So we are essentially trying to be a one-stop shop to simplify retirement and to set it and forget it and let us worry about it.
There you go. And of course, as we've discussed in the past on this show, there's always a lot of little nuances, little things that are very confusing, and we get fed a lot of information from outside sources, much of it incorrect, or at least doesn't necessarily apply to our personal situation. And that's why you and the team there at Heiar are there to kind of sort through and weed that and really make that a personal journey.
Yeah, it's we have a lot of, besides this is really our only advertising. So a lot of it's referral based, so a lot of people will come in and say, I want this, what my neighbor had, or, I want to, have the same plan as them. And we have to step back. We want to get to know you, your hopes and dreams, your aspirations, your health, family, beneficiaries from your kids to aunts and uncles, nephews, nieces. And then we kind of construct a plan according to that. So it's not just a cookie cutter, this is what we do. It's different and unique in different situations. Even with retirement planning, if we just have one spouse come in and we're like, can I retire? It's like, well, you're married. So what does your other spouse have, and how is that working? Or an example of one that gets a little bit more unique, especially with the estate planning and the income planning, would be second marriages, where you have a second marriage where, each spouse has their own children, how is that going to work out? And these are all questions that come up when things happen.
Right.
And we don't want that to happen.
Better know ahead of time how they answer those questions.
Planning for the future is a big thing, and we can't stress it enough, just because we have situations. And then, the unfortunate, things happen where, we have a widowed spouse at a young age, well, we didn't plan for that.
Right.
And so that's why there's so many different situations that we want, you not to have to worry about it. We want you to retire, do all those things you were talking about, and then we'll take care of the rest. And, just by going local, that's another huge factor where you're not going to call a 1-800 number we are a local number, and we want to be there and to answer it. And the person that set the plan up is going to be the person talking to you and answering the questions.
What is that local number for everybody listening?
Great segue. Yes, it's 920-887-0580. And people can call in if they have questions also.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can reach us here on the show if you have a question. 887-9595 is our call or text line, or 885-4446. And our producer, Wally Lukashinsky, will be more than happy to pass your call on through so you can talk to Matt Heiar. I actually have a question.
Okay.
Lately, conversations have been coming up with some family that I have that are retired, a couple of them being former educators, and two of them being former police officers. And there was just some major changes that were done and signed relating to those who have a pension, but also could be collecting Social Security. I believe it was called the Fairness Bill that was just signed by Joe Biden that was going to change kind of how that affected them. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet.
No, I haven't looked into that.
So the information I have and the questions that I have from it, because it looks like it was going to be something where it's going to increase the amount of Social Security they get by on average about $360 a month for people who were government employees getting a pension, who maybe weren't getting, I guess the amount of your pension can affect how much you get for Social Security, right?
Potentially. Well, it's how much you've paid in
Right.
over a 35-year period for the Social Security. But now they're saying that they're going to boost their Social Security amount
Right.
to help that. Well, that's great. I'll have to look into that, and I'll get back to you. But it's basically, we love pensions.
Right.
It's that warm, fuzzy feeling.
We do love warm, fuzzy feelings. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So we like constant income. So that's the great part. But that's why, we find that income shortage basically between the pension and the Social Security and your spouse's pension or Social Security, whatever that is. And then what is our income goal? What is our debt? What is our actual, liabilities or just monthly expenses? We have to live.
Right.
So that's why a lot of people will come in and they'll say, well, I'm not going to be driving as much. I'm not going to be, eating out as much. And at the same time, if you had a household income of 100,000, that doesn't mean like, well, we can retire at 50,000. I mean, yes, you will be spending less, perhaps, but this is, during the go-go years of retirement, this is when we will travel.
Right. You might want to take a cruise or two, or
Yes,
buy a boat.
absolutely. And we're not guaranteed tomorrow, so sometimes we have to almost, not force, but just like kind of portray this to people, saying like, hey, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. We have enough to retire. Why not bump up our income a little bit, in the earlier stages of retirement, and utilize that money that we saved and worked so hard for? We don't need to give it to the kids.
Right.
And then when we hit certain stages of retirement where it's like, oh, we will have enough money, we're not going to outlive it. What is the best way to transfer this, to the children, whether it be taxes, whether it be, dispersing it at slower amounts to them, whether it be living legacies like gifting money. So there's many different, strategies that we go about that. But yeah, it's at the same time, it's like people right away will talk about legacy, well, okay, like, how am I going to get to this kid, or this one will buy a Ferrari if they get a lump sum, and, or they're not too good with money management. And that's why, we want to know your concerns, and we want to be transparent with each other. And that's when we bring Rob Mielek, who's on every third Monday of the month, same time. And that's where, he can break it down and create, documentation saying, we'll disperse X amount of, percent of the trust, to each child until it is exhausted. So that's why he always says that wills die when people die, because they're just your wishes. It's a final saying, but a trust can live on. They just run out of money.
Right.
So, and sometimes Rob will say, well, we don't need a trust. So it's very situational on, our aspirations of what we want, whether it's avoiding probate. And that's the same when it comes to like, investments. It's like people want principal preservation. People want income and growth, and we kind of create a plan unique to your situation. And that's why knowing your client, and going somewhere local where we will see you and we will be updating it, every other month, every 3 months, every 6 months, whatever it may be, to fit your best needs.
Let's go ahead and take things back to basics a little bit and start with some just general understanding of things. So I work full time, X number of years, and I hit the point where I am first allowed to retire and collect Social Security. If I've done no 401ks, no savings, no IRAs, no nothing, I don't have money in a mattress, whatever, then my only income at that point in time is my Social Security.
Correct.
So obviously that's how Social Security essentially works. For the reminder of everybody out there who doesn't know, what is the earliest retirement age currently
Yes.
that you can collect Social Security?
So for a widowed spouse, it's 60 years old.
Okay.
And then if you are not a widowed spouse or you're single, 62 is the earliest.
And then there's a point in time where you essentially kind of have to start collecting it, correct?
Well, the government's not going to call you and say you have to, but what happens is, so 62 is the earliest for just a standard Social Security date, and that's when you can get 70 to 75% of your benefit. And then, but if we turn it on, we can work, but we can only make about $23,500 for 2025. So we have to stay under that income limit. Because if we don't, every $2 you go over Social Security, they readjust your Social Security and they take $1 back for next year.
Gotcha.
So that's why, if it doesn't make sense, we don't turn it on. And then your full retirement age for like all our babies that are 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. So that's where the government says we will give you 100% of your benefit. Excellent. And then once we hit 67, we could actually potentially, if we're still working, we could double dip and we could make as much money as we want. There's no income restriction.
Oh, so that 23.5 whatever is
just from when you're first eligible to your full retirement.
That is something I did not know. Okay.
Yes.
I like that.
Another thing is in the year of your full retirement. So like I'm born in November, so my full retirement's at 67. So January 1st of the year I'm turning 67, I still can make up to a little over $60,000 a year. So in the year of your full retirement, they take away that 23,000, maybe it's 25, 26 at the time, and I can make a little bit more. And then once I hit November at 67, I can make whatever I want. So that's why, people are working longer, and a lot of it's because of the insurance.
Right.
Now, to answer your question, the latest or the most it will grow is 70 years old. So like once I hit 67, from 67 to 68, it will go up 8%. 68 to 69, another 8%, which 8%, that's a great return.
Right.
But once again, we have to weigh the facts of our income plan, the widowed spouse test, and if we're not taking Social Security, where's that money coming from then?
Right.
So all those have to weigh the options. We put them into the technology, shake it up, and we see, well, we could do this or we could do this. Sometimes we don't have a lot of options. We have to do this. So that's why it's really cool, because every day is different. Every plan is different. But yes, if you're 71 years old and you're not collecting Social Security, we're losing every month. We do not turn that on.
Now, if I take it all the way up to 70 and finally do turn it on, is it still the 100%, or do we continue to build some growth on that?
It's the 100%, so it's your 67 amount, and then from 67 to 68, you grew 8%. From 68 to 69, you grew another 8%. So yes, it's still growing, but the kicker is, it's really cool. If you create an account on Social Security's website, ssa.gov, it has a chart. So like, obviously, from 62 to our full retirement age, every month it goes up $6, $10, $15, whatever it may be, depending on your Social Security. So it's like, oh, if I wait till February, it goes up to this. If I wait till March. But once we hit our full retirement age at 67 years old, it freezes. So like, if your full retirement age is January, if I look at February, March, April, at 67 in 1 month, 67 in 2 months, it's the same amount.
Right.
It's like, well, that's not fair. I thought it grows 8%, like you said.
Right.
It does, but you have to wait until the following January. It only credits you on January's.
Gotcha.
So that's why it's like, is it worth waiting 12 months, or would you rather have X amount of dollars in your bank account first?
Gotcha. And this is also then where those conversations about your health, your needs, whatever it may be, can come into play, because what's the point of putting it off if you may not be able to handle or be able to use it
Oh, exactly.
at that time, or even collect it at that time?
And then for some people that retire like younger, it all depends on that too, because sometimes we take what we call an accelerated benefit for our pensions. So if we're younger than 62 years old, say you're 57 years old and you retire, you have the option of taking an accelerated, which you're getting more money, but then basically once you hit 62, your insurance amount that you're getting from your pension goes down. So it's almost forcing you to take Social Security.
Right.
But maybe you're working part-time still and you're making over 23,000. Maybe we don't do it then. Majority of people do it with knowing like, hey, I retired early, took the accelerated because go years, I'm spending money, I want, a larger benefit, and it makes sense. So we just have to weigh those options, and that's why when we get pension paperwork, especially with like our state, like the ETF, they are great to work with. They're right in Madison. I always recommend scheduling an appointment with them because you get all this paperwork and they're like, could you help me? And it's like, I can advise you on different like options on like what to pick, pros and cons of each ones. If you're married, we want a spousal benefit. We want one of them. Throw a dart at the board, pick one of the four. Now we can debate the accelerated, but that will all be part of your income plan if we have one, obviously. But just the paperwork, a lot of people bring it in, like the tax forms, and I'm like, we got to talk to our accountant because they are our best friends in retirement. Right. So they know your whole financial picture. So that's why, I could advise you on different choices and the options and explain them to you. But at the same time, I would schedule an appointment. We want you to retire once. We want to make sure that they have everything they need, everything's in good order, and they usually want you to do it about 90 days prior to your termination.
So a question I get asked when I'm talking to people, and I think that maybe people are maybe somewhat misinformed about when it comes to Social Security, is when you start collecting those benefits, are those benefits taxed? Are you still paying federal, state taxes on it? Are you still paying Social Security on your Social Security benefit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, there's just federal tax taken out of that. It's a little frustrating because they tax it out of your check when you're working, and then they tax you.
Right.
But that's a whole other story. But at the same time, with Social Security, like your actual benefits, like I help people sign up for Social Security all the time and create accounts, and we'll finish the application, and they're like, well, they never asked me about taxes, and they do not. So I would say maybe half of the people, 40 to 50%, don't even pay taxes on their Social Security. But it all depends on your whole financial picture. If someone's working, if someone has a pension also, and that's where it could potentially be taxable. So I usually print out a form. It's called a Form W4V. It's a voluntary withholding of your Social Security. And it's a pretty simple form. I can fax it up to the Social Security Administration for you, but I always have them advise with their accountant or whoever does their taxes because they know the tax bracket and they know how much you're paying in for federal taxes. And you only get four options. It's 7%, 10%, 12%, or 22%. So, and then maybe that's just why your spouse is working still. And then we'll send in another form next year that we check a box that says, I want you to stop withholding federal income tax. So there isn't a right or wrong answer to that because everyone's situation is different once again with that. But yes, they do not say, do you want taxes taken out? It's not an option. It's not even brought up in the application. So we just want to make sure that moving forward, that is something we do. And it takes a while to get the process, 60 to 90 days for them to even start paying the check. So if you get a couple checks and you haven't taken taxes out, it's not the end of the world. Right. We just don't want to go 12 months and find out the hard way.
Yeah, no surprises. No surprises if we can help it. We mentioned pensions a little bit, and one of the questions I've had people bring up to me and ask me to ask is, you talk about that you can make $23,500 when you're 62, roughly. So if you're getting a pension, does that count as income towards that maximum amount?
That's another great question. So what the government defines it as is earned income. So earned income is wages, tips, punching a clock, I say. Mm-hmm. So yes, your pension, it does not count. Rental income, that's passive income, right. Like dividends and interest you're getting from investments, that does not count towards your Social Security. Now, not for taxes, though. Could be different for taxing on your Social Security. But that's why our accountants are our best friends. we don't want accountants to call us and yell at us, or if you're working with one of our accountants that's on our team, it's a little bit easier, obviously, because we're all in the same ballpark. But yeah, that's why we always want to make sure we're advising that, and our financial situations change. Whether you're doing Roth conversions and your tax bracket's going up, or there is a strategy behind it. So that's why we want everyone on the same page, and we want you, obviously the client, the most to understand the situation, what's going on, why are we doing this, and make sure it makes sense for everyone.
And I guess knowing that it's earned income there, is why it's good to have other avenues for your retirement, be that the 401k, IRAs, or whatever that may be.
Yep, buckets.
Buckets. We've talked about the buckets before. Yeah. What are some other options besides Social Security? And if you happen to be lucky enough to be in a pension program, what are some other options that are out there for people?
Well, we better read the disclaimer first.
Let's do the disclaimer, of course. This is a paid program, and the advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands. And a reminder to everybody, if you do have questions, feel free to call us 887-9595 or 885-4446. All right, so lay it out for us. Options.
So there's many different options, and that's why we love, if you have a pension, that's great. Because we know it's guaranteed income. Right. We want the spousal benefit to make sure that, if something happened, that income's still going to keep coming in. Even if it's half of it, still something.
Right.
So we like the predictable income, but then we try to create another income stream. And the best part is, obviously, you have your 401ks, IRAs. If you came in early enough, we're talking about Roth IRAs, which is basically you already paid the taxes on it. But that is tax-free income, if we meet certain thresholds,
right.
Which that's what we like. We like different tax situations for buckets, like, just like we talked about a couple weeks ago, like buying that boat.
Right.
Do we finance it? Do we pull it from the Roth money, which is tax-free income? Or are we, trying to spend down some of our IRA money because Uncle Sam at 73 years old says you have to start taking it regardless? So that's the situation just of having, and maybe we have just a brokerage account where we'll pull from there, or you might pay capital gains perhaps or something like that. But, there's different options, and the more buckets we have, the easier our job is. So that's why we're trying to, create different strategies with different risk tolerances, different tax situations. So the more buckets, the better. And I know it can get confusing to some people, but as long as you're understanding the strategy, why we're doing this, what this is used for. Is this rainy day? Is this 10 years down the road money? And that's basically how we work it. Every situation is different. And not everyone has assets to create all these buckets.
Right.
And some people don't want to. They just want one chunk, and they're just going to pull from their nest egg when they need it. And I can't say they're wrong either. So it's your comfort, your income plan basically, or your lifestyle. And that's how we kind of get to know you, get to know your family and your aspirations and what you want done with this money and what you're going to be doing in retirement.
Now, I know IRA stands for, is it individual retirement account?
Yeah.
So Roth IRA is just a Roth individual retirement account?
Correct.
What's the difference between the two other than the word Roth?
Yep. So basically,
and the tax thing.
Yep. So that's the main thing. Right there is the taxes. So if it's an individual retirement account, a traditional IRA, it's basically you're putting money in there, and then you get to deduct it on your taxes, so you don't have to pay tax on it, and you get to save it away, and you just can't touch it till you're 59 and a half. You can in certain situations, but that's a whole other story.
Right.
And then it could grow, but it's deferring the taxes essentially. So say it doubled in 1 year, great. You're not going to pay taxes on that. But when we pull the money out, it's going to be our ordinary income tax, whatever our tax bracket is at that time, that's what we're paying. So that's great. So it's a lot more bang for your buck. You're having more dollars put in there, and they're growing. But at the same time, we have to start paying tax on it. Now with the Roth IRA, I could go put money into a Roth, and there's income limits, just like with the traditional IRA. We'll put money in there, but you already paid taxes on it.
Right.
You don't get to deduct it on your taxes that year. And so it's less money we can put in essentially because it's not deferred with taxes. You already paid the taxes. but that could grow double and stuff. And once it's after 5 years and we're over the 59.5, it's tax-free income. So that could triple, quadruple, and that's great for retirement and the income planning moving forward once we get into our later years. A lot easier to transfer Roth IRAs. They're not a tax, consequence to your next of kin.
Oh, okay.
So a traditional IRA, with the Secure Act 2.0, basically said you have 10 years. You have 10 years to spend that 401k. So if you get a 401k from mom and dad, you could rip off the Band-Aid and do it 1 year.
Right.
Talk to the accountant, obviously.
Right.
Or a lot of people are just taking out a tenth of it every year. But yeah, Uncle Sam doesn't care if you raise a tax bracket or not. That's the situation. And I always tell people that's a good problem. Like, oh,
Right.
darn it, I got money from mom and dad, and now I have to pay
Oh, no.
taxes. It's you can have the taxes taken out of it, with your distribution. So, but yes, I mean, these are things that we talk about, and they are concerns for people.
I mean, and understandably so. Is the 5 years, you have to have it for 5 years, and then 59.5, that's why you were saying if you hit it early enough for putting money into the retirement. I think you said that earlier.
Yep. But so you could put money in today and then call me and be like, I got to take it out tomorrow. And there's no penalty for that,
Okay.
because it's more liquid. But if there's growth, you're going to have to pay.
Taxes on the growth.
Correct. So obviously we would not set something up where you're going to call tomorrow,
Right.
and so that's why, some people contribute, $50 a month, $100 a month, $200 a month, it's all in your budget.
And with both these options, you can do that. You can just contribute as needed.
Absolutely.
I like that. We know what 401ks are. Many of us have them from our job and going through that route. So obviously that's another avenue as well. For the people out there who are like, well, I know I'm getting Social Security when I retire, and I'm going to hold out for as long as I can. I'm going to work for as long as I can. And I know I've got a 401k sitting out there that's growing. And so that's all I need.
And sometimes that is, it's some people, I mean, if you live a simple lifestyle, some people do just live on their Social Security, and it's just crazy to see the differences, in some people's Social Security, some not, if you have self-employment, a lot of people don't pay in as much Social Security, like farmers, for instance. It's because they're not, making these huge, net worth, years. So they're
Right.
not paying a lot in, and, that's so their Social Security could be smaller, rather than someone that worked 30 years, and paid Social Security every check,
Right.
every bonus. And that's the difference. But I mean, I was in our Social Security book that the government released. They say they do not want your Social Security to exceed 40% of your retirement income.
Okay.
It's a recommendation.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be great if, but not everyone has that option. But that's where we, make it work. And that actually is huge when it comes to, picking our health insurance. It's like, well, if we're just on Social Security, Medicare's $185 a month this year. It's like, well, let's do, $175 supplement on top of that. It's like, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
You might want that policy, but at the same time, if it doesn't make sense for your actual overall budget, or if we have a lot of debt and we're trying to pay that off too, then we pick something else. So they all kind of commingle together, and that's why we have to break it down step by step, and we just start from the top. We want you to retire once. And that's why everyone comes in with those, cliche, I don't know anything about this, this is a stupid question. There really is no such thing, because I tell people, how many times have you retired? And retirement is a word. I feel like a therapist sometimes, because,
Right.
It's nerve-wracking.
Right.
No checks are coming in? What?
That's an eye opener for a lot of people.
Yes. And so we have to walk them through it, saying, this is why you came here. This is why we created a plan, and you just put them at ease. And it doesn't always work, but once the plan starts going into play, then they kind of set their guard down and they relax a little bit. We don't want you watching the stock market every day. Do people do that? Absolutely.
Of course they do. Yeah.
But at the same time, that's why we create more buckets, diversifying you out more and stuff like that for some people, obviously. And, we'll take it step by step. That's all you can do. And same with a widowed spouse comes in. I got this, I got this, I got to fill paperwork out, death certificates. All we can do is step by step. What's problem one? Let's work on that. And that's why having beneficiaries, having contingent beneficiaries, having an estate planned, having the beneficiaries know what mom and dad have, or aunt and uncles have, and if they're part of an estate, like that is huge. And that's why just giving Rob a call also and talking to him, I recommend it to everyone. It does not mean you have to go with Rob, but at the same time, because a lot of people have estate attorneys already or wills that's already drawn up, but Rob does his complimentary 45-minute consultation. Even if you have an estate set up, he was willing to look at it, because just like with financial laws, with Medicare laws, everything is evolving and changing.
Right.
So we're planning for everything that we know now, but in 5 years, things could change.
Right. And if people are planning ahead of time, I myself being 41, if I'm looking at retirement, obviously I've got 20 plus years left before that's, potentially a thing. What I think is going to fit my needs now is probably not going to fit my needs then.
Well, and the money we think we'll need for retirement now, is that enough then?
I do remember as a kid growing up, I'm talking like late 80s, early 90s, having people say like, oh, if I had $1 million in the bank, I'd be set for life. Now it feels like that's not even close.
And it all depends on your lifestyle.
Right.
I have people that have not even close to that and are living their best life with retirement. And it's a word, like I said, it's you might get a part-time job just for fun. Well, now we don't have to pull as much from this. It's very situational. Like sometimes we're giving people a sweep, they're getting their money. Then they just call and be like, hey, let's stop that for now because I got a part-time job, and, or they'll say, let's raise it. And then we do it. It's very situational. And that's why we don't wait, the 3 or 6 months to see you. It's like, no, absolutely call us, and you'll be returned. The phone call will be returned within 24 hours, and we will let you know our opinions, and we will come to a conclusion whether we want to meet again quick or we want to just adjust things, and we do it on the fly.
There you go. And for people who want to make that call, 920-887-0580 over there to Heiar Insurance. So you can, I'm guessing within reason, start and stop your Social Security?
Not Social Security. So
Okay.
with Social Security, you have one time you can do it, and it's within the first 12 months. Okay. So say 11 months later, you call me, and I can't do anything technically, but you say you call me and be like, hey, I got an offer for a full-time job, and I'm going to be over the income limit. I don't want my Social Security. So I would advise you that you have to call the Social Security office. There's some forms you have to fill out to cancel your Social Security. And the one thing is, they're going to want every dime back that they gave you.
Oh.
And it goes back into your Social Security account, obviously.
So you don't lose it.
No.
Right.
You don't lose it, but that's why don't go spend that if that's the situation. And I haven't really had this happen often. A couple times, though, where they decided to go back to work or they got an offer they couldn't refuse. But yes, that is the kicker. Don't go spend that money then, because if we're up in the air, and that's why we don't just come in and be like, yeah, it makes sense, sign up. It's all situational with that. Typically, people are not looking to go back full time once they turn on their Social Security.
Right. Now, in that off chance that once in a lifetime offer comes along and you'd say, let's do it, let's turn it off again, do you then go back into that? It continues to grow to a certain point, or
Absolutely.
They're like, you already claimed it once. Sorry.
No.
Okay.
It'll continue to grow and stuff. But yeah, if you come back in 14 months and say, yep, I want to stop it, we can't.
All right. That is good to know.
Yeah, so we want to be very sure with it, and it, like I said, it's not too common and stuff, but it does happen. There was a situation just like they were an unexpected widowed spouse, and it just wasn't enough.
Right.
So there is situation, or another time, a job offer that they couldn't refuse.
And obviously, you've seen a lot of the weird, unique situations that can come up. The vast majority of people coming in to see you has got to feel semi-similar. Like, everybody's different, but it's not a lot of too wild, crazy out there. But it does happen.
It does, and that's why, that's why we're asking these questions. We're not trying to pry into your life, because some people, they're not even our client. They don't have insurance with us. They don't have an income plan, and they're like, sign me up for Social Security. I still have to ask these questions, just for my peace of mind, knowing like I signed someone up for Social Security because it made sense,
Right.
And they're not working, and or it was the lower of the two, like I have to justify why I do things. So that's why we will ask questions, and we will debate. But the main thing is getting that account on SSA.gov. If you could do that prior to coming in and bring that information in, it makes it so much easier, because then we could just hit the ground running, start talking about numbers, the differences. If you wait, how many years would it take to make that up?
Right.
Usually ends up being like 12 to 15 years, where it's like, oh, should have waited.
Right.
But that's where it just has to make sense, and that's why if you just come in, you get a complimentary consultation, and we can talk about it, and we could do nothing, or you might be signing up for Social Security.
Now, for the account on SSA.gov, is that something where you have to be a certain age to sign up for that account?
No.
So I could go do it and see kind of where I'm at.
Yes, absolutely.
So that could be an eye-opener for some people.
It could. And once again, that's not our only income.
Right.
I mean, it is for some people, and it is what it is. But at the same time, that's moving forward for people, planning on retirement. We want to know, okay, hey, it's going to be that much, what do I need above and beyond that? And like that's why a lot of times when people are coming in much earlier and we're not really even doing income yet because we're pretty far out, it's like, let's start debt controlling. High interest debt, like we got credit cards, that's number one focus.
Right.
Let's get those down. What does our mortgage look like? And everyone always wants to pay off that mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And because you get a 401k, you get a big chunk of money, let's do it.
Right. Why not?
Well, that's taxable. So if you owe $40,000 in your house, we're probably pulling more than that.
Right.
And then it's taxable. And like, how did that work out for us? And your interest rate was at 3%. It's like, did it make sense? We could have just put that into your income plan.
Right.
And that's why we always have to play devil's advocate, where it's like, does it make sense? Or let's break this up over 3 years, and that's why it's so situational. Or we have, an investment property or a second home, that we have a mortgage on. Well, we sell a second home, that's you're going to have tax consequences or capital gains, essentially. It's a lot different than selling our primary home. Are we going to downsize?
Right.
So these questions are, they seem very personal, but we have to, my mom always used to say, you have to get naked, but you do, because it's, if we don't know everything, how do we diagnose something?
Right. And that means sometimes you guys kind of have to be, I don't want to say the bad guy, but you're kind of the bad guy sometimes, where you have to look at people and say, I know you really want to pay off your house. I know you really want to buy that big expensive RV and do whatever and just pay for it outright. I know you don't want to have to remember to log in every month and pay this bill or pay that off or whatever. But then you also get to be the good guy who people can reach out to you and say, hey, can we put it in my income plan because I want to get a bike, I want to get a motorcycle, or hey, we really want to take a major cruise, we want to do this and spend on that. It's going to be a big expensive one. Can we get that in the income plan? Can we make that happen?
That is the worst part of my job, because right. I try to be like a peacekeeper,
Mm-hmm.
and like, glass half full. So I let the technology do it. We start inputting it, be like, okay, well, we take this and we put this into there, and it looks like you're going to run out about at 83 years old. And so
right.
it's not me saying no,
right,
per se, but it's just like, this gets a little bit riskier. Not saying this will happen,
right,
but it's because I'm terrible. That was my biggest fear,
right.
Coming into this.
You're
like,
such a nice guy. I just can't imagine you being mean.
Well, and just having those, but you have to be realistic,
Right.
And that's where I was so scared, to tell people like, well,
I mean, it's a nice boat, but no.
That, or just people are like, I just want to retire. I want to retire. And, you're looking at it and you're doing the numbers without the technology, and you're like, this is going to be tight.
I mean, there's a certain realism to it. You can't live a certain lifestyle if you don't have the income to match it.
Yes, but, if they were my parents, you'd want to be realistic with them. and be
Right.
like, I just don't see this making sense right now. I think, if we wait a little bit longer, save a little bit more, and a lot of people will put their, head down and start saving, and they'll come back in a couple years and be like, everything's different. Absolutely, we can. So like it doesn't mean we can't do it. And sometimes those conversations, people have thanked me for them and saying like, "Hey, I'm really glad we had that."
Right.
I thought I was going to be retiring soon, and look what I did. Look what I saved in this last year already. And but still, it's a very. I do not like that aspect, but sometimes showing. I'm a visual person, so
Right.
actually putting it up on the TV screen, be like, well, what I'm seeing here, what they're saying. I always say they're saying. AI.
Right.
But yeah, it's, and that's why, coming in earlier than is better because, all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm retiring, I already told my work, I'm done, filled out my pension paperwork, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa.
Right.
And I don't want, that's the worst thing I want to say. Well, it's like, well, you have to get a part-time job. I want you to get a part-time job because you want to, not because you have
Right.
to.
That does make a lot of sense. I can imagine a scenario where it's my wife calling in to talk to you and being like, Matt, my husband's about to call you because he really wants to buy this. Tell him no. Like, tell him we can't. Tell him it's going to ruin our entire retirement plan.
We could talk about it.
Right.
That's what we got to do.
I like it. We got about 2 minutes left in the show, so I do want to remind everybody again where they can find you guys. And obviously, I know that's over at the Heritage Mall.
Yep.
A great location you guys have. Not a big storefront, but doesn't need to be because you guys are that hometown consult for all of this. 920-887-0580. Heiar Insurance website?
Yes, it's higherinsurance.com.
Easy enough. I
Yeah.
like
Do
it.
you are you going to be here next week?
I believe so, yes.
So I will not.
Dun, dun, dun.
So who am I going to bring in here?
That's a great question. Wait, is it Mom? Is Mom coming?
No,
No.
we'll never
Oh.
get a celebrity appearance by her. No, I'm just kidding.
She just doesn't like me. It's fine. I get it.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to have Jill and Leanne come in here. So they're
Really?
Yeah, so they're part of
Superstar
our.
Jill.
What's up?
Superstar Jill. Like,
Yes.
answers the phones. I love it.
Absolutely. So, they're going to talk about the atmosphere, the environment there. What they do. Because they're part of our team, and we would not be who we are without those guys.
I'll do my best to see if I can dig up some dirt on Matt Heiar for everybody as well. Because you seem like
Absolutely.
such a nice guy.
Yeah.
There's got to be something. There's
Oh,
got to
yeah.
be something.
Yeah. Well, just don't ask my wife then. But
Right.
no, it's they're nervous. They're really nervous to do this, and
We'll make it fun. They'll have a great time.
I think I said just tell them what you do, and then they could put a face to the voice. And but yes, I mean they're what makes everything work around there.
Well, it does take an entire team. I know that from talking with you and just hearing about everything that goes on over there. It's not like you're the only guy running around answering phones and doing everything.
No apps. I would be no. Actually, it's not even possible. So it's really cool, and I just want you guys to meet. And if you have questions for our staff, I mean this is why we get through those crazy times, and just with all the help and support they do. So it's great, and I'm excited for them to be on the radio show.
Well, there you go. So if you want a little behind-the-scenes talk about the Heiar Insurance team, tune in next Friday.
Yeah, they
for
could say
Taking Care of
what they could
Business.
say what they really think about me.
There you
So
go. It'll
We'll see
be
what happens.
All access, no holds barred.
Yes.
But until then, we do want to remind everybody, of course, your slogan.
Yes. If you want to retire, call Heiar.
I like it. Awesome. So this has been a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed during the program have been solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands.